wish you'd understand. I just wish that God had a better plan. I'm so confused. I need a redo. Inside of me that's begging and begging and pleading. I just wanna feel free. I just wanna feel lovely. I'm surrounded by love that's in pain. Can I wipe your tears away? Please don't hurt for me. I hate that it's for me. It's for me.
Hi, welcome back to the MS Michigan Man 64 podcast. Thank you to the beautiful Amber K, Warrior number 2, for that awesome introduction. I hate that it's for me. She's an MSer and she wrote that song. Please check out her episode and hit the subscribe button on her YouTube channel. My name is Brian. I am the MS Michigan Man 64. I have been living with multiple sclerosis for the last 28 years. I talk about my journey as well as the journey of other chronic disease warriors all over the world, just to try to help people understand what it's like going through that diagnosis, the mental health part of it, the family part of it, the employment part of it. Today, I am sitting down with an MSer I met on TikTok a few months ago. I met Millie on a live, and I love everything that she has to say. She was diagnosed with her MS back in 2006. She dealt with it a few years before that, trying to get it figured out, and she's going to talk about that. But the real cool thing about Millie is that she worked for the federal government for 20 years. She worked with the Department of Health and Human Services, and we're going to talk a lot about that in the system. And please welcome to the podcast, Millie. How you doing today, Millie?
Hi, Brian. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, thank you, Millie. I know when I met you a few months ago in a live on TikTok, I love everything that you're about, Millie. You know, you're a fighter, and you have a lot of good things to say, especially from your experiences living with this disease and your life experiences. Back in 2006, when you got that diagnosis, Millie, can you kind of take us through your path to get to that point? Because I know it started back in 2002, and just talk about your journey with your MS.
Correct. So in 2002, I had my first episode of blurred vision. And at that time, I was about 3 months shy of graduating college, no health insurance, and that's a problem.
Right.
So the ophthalmologist explained to me very quickly that he believed I had optic neuritis, which is commonly the first sign of MS in young African-American women, and that was me.
Wow.
Then 4 years later, well, basically 2002, blurred vision, get an MRI, but they couldn't physically give me a diagnosis at that time because I didn't have enough lesions. But I was told that I'll probably get MS later on in life. And that was a good thing because at that time, the pre-existing condition clauses would have prevented me from being covered had I been diagnosed with MS.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. I can relate to that, Millie, because back when I got diagnosed in 97, I was already employed with the state of Ohio. And, 5-10 years into my career, I thought about leaving the state of Ohio, but I couldn't do that. I was kind of handcuffed because if I would have left employment, then I could have been, discriminated against and not hired by another company. So I totally get what you're talking about with that.
The funny part was, so right after I got the quote probable diagnosis, literally like within the month, I then went and interviewed for the job with the federal government under the Department of Health and Human Services. And I never would have taken a government job, but given the recent news, I was like, this might be the best thing for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So then I ended up taking that job. And then again, as advised by the first neurologist I saw, stumbled upon this later. So 4 years later, I had the second episode of optic neuritis. This time it was my color vision that was impacted. And then I got sent to the ER for 5 days IV steroids, another MRI, and comparison to the prior MRI 4 years ago. And then therein lied the diagnosis.
Did you have, I mean, with the research that you did, and thank God that you did, because I know when I got diagnosed with 27, I didn't really have a whole lot of knowledge with MS. Just
Mhm.
I knew a couple of people that had it, but I didn't really know anything about the disease. Um, I think that that had to help you mentally for that actual diagnosis, just having that knowledge already in your
Oh,
head of what you were going to be facing.
absolutely.
Yeah,
It was a blessing and a curse. Good in the way that, yes, you know what you're dealing with, you know what you're walking into, but a curse in a way that I wasn't ready for certain information that I learned, like the progression and, how significant symptoms can be, and particularly the mental health aspect. That scared me beyond measure.
and I say this to people all the time when we're in lives is, my 28 years of doing this, the physical part sucks. The pain, all, and the losing the ability to do certain things. But the mental part to me has been the hardest part with this journey.
I agree. I totally agree with that, especially since, again, I mean, I was diagnosed in '06 and I still worked until 2021. That was not easy. I mean, this job required me traveling regularly.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't even understand why I was paying rent. Like,
Right.
'cause I'm never home.
Right. So let me ask you this, Millie. How did your family understand that diagnosis in 2006 that you had MS? Did they understand that?
Not really. No. Again, because I was given the probable diagnosis 4 years prior, I did a lot of research. That research was mainly, oh, it's a white woman's disease. And I'm like, well, I'm not that. So
Right.
how did I get here? Um,
Yeah.
so, were stuck on that too. Like, how did this even happen?
Right. The funny thing is that back in 1997, when I got my diagnosis, I was told by one of the nurses after my diagnosis that it was a black female disease. And I looked at her back then like, why are you telling me this? What does it matter whether it is a black female, white, black? I mean, this disease doesn't discriminate. And I remember thinking that back then. And I've recorded with a few black females, and they were told, the opposite thing. It was a white female disease. And the one
Mhm.
lady up in Maryland, she actually had family that had this disease. And she's like, well, that's funny. I have, two relatives that have this disease, and I'm a black female. So I just
Mm.
don't understand, when people are told that it doesn't make any sense to me. Why are you telling people that it's mostly this? Well, that doesn't do me any good. Let's just fix the problem and not label it with a race or a color or a nationality or whatever. I mean, this is a human being that has this disease, and let's treat them like human beings and let's fix the problem.
I agree completely, Brian.
Yeah.
Totally, totally.
So, Millie, did the doctors explain what MS was exactly to you when you went through that diagnosis?
No, sir, absolutely not. But thank God for the research I did between the probable and definitive diagnosis. I was able to use that knowledge to ask my doctors and to be able to understand more. But did they ever break it down to me? No, sir.
Now, I know when we were talking before we started recording, you said you had to actually change providers a few times, and I had to do that too when I first went through my initial diagnosis. My first neurologist, he kind of spun me around, and when he got to the point where he wanted to stick the needle in my back, and it failed, and I kind of walked away from him, and I'm like, but then my symptoms got worse, and I'm like, I got to find something else, and I found another neuro, and I was with that guy for 15 years, and I know that's part of the journey too.
Absolutely, positively. As I mentioned before, upon first diagnosis of probable, the whole Black woman, optic neuritis, wheelchair, 5 years, fired. Next.
Right?
You
Yeah.
have you have to. You
Yeah.
have to.
You have to. And I think earlier in your disease that you figure that out. I mean, even after your initial diagnosis, if you got a doctor that's not giving you answers to questions that you're having, or, if they're just kind of brushing everything off on your MS, I mean, it might be something else. And if you're not happy with that doctor, you gotta find somebody that you're comfortable with, because I think that's a really important part of my 28 years, is having a neuro that I trusted and liked.
I agree 150%. And the crazy for me, I found her. She saved me, got me on the orals, and then left.
Right, right.
But it's okay. I
Yeah,
got put onto another one,
yeah.
so it's
So,
all good.
so speaking of your orals, let's talk about your DMTs. How did they start when you started your journey out? I know I started out on Avonex, and
Mhm.
it wasn't a really good drug to me. And I know that you started out on the same drug, and it was just a different path that we took. Talk about your DMT journey, Millie.
Sure. 3 months after diagnosis, I start Avonex. Hardest thing I've ever done in my life. That is brutal. Every weekend I feel like crap. I'd be off every other Friday, take the shot on a Thursday if I was off, and I'd still be just okay enough on Monday to go back.
Right?
Barely. But
Yeah.
for 7.5 years, still progressed, went to the doctor. Hey, it's not working. I don't think, can we consider something else? If it ain't broke, don't fix it, he says.
And I couldn't believe that
Again,
when you told me that, Millie, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I mean, my path with Avonex, that was the first DMT that my neurologist put me on. There were only like 3 or 4 out at the time. And, I didn't know any of them. I'm like, okay, whatever. And it was once a week. And I'm sitting here, okay, once a week's better than every day, which was Copaxone.
hmm
And that was my whole reasoning for picking up Avonex. And when I did it, and my first weekend, I did it on a Friday. He said, do it on a Friday because you might be a little bit sick, flu-like symptoms. It wiped me out. I was out from
Truly.
Friday evening until Sunday evening, and then I just felt better and went to work, Monday through Friday.
Exactly.
And then, I would do it. I did it again, and I did that 4 times. 4 times, 1 month, and I went to my neuro and I said, "Oh hell no, doc! I can't do that. I can't live like that. I can't imagine doing that for 7 years." Millie, that's amazing. You did that.
Thank you, sir. And again, while working my way up in the federal government as an auditor for the Department of Health, it was not fun.
Yeah. And so after you had the Avonex, you 7 years. What did they do with you after that?
So again, when he said if it ain't broke, don't fix it, he never saw me again. Again, you got to do what you got to do. So I find an MS specialist in New York City. Granted, a little more travel, but worth it. And they eventually, very quickly, I think by spring, they got me onto the oral medications. And I started off with Tecfidera, but then Tecfidera lost their patent, and then the insurance then denied the Tecfidera.
Wow.
So I switched to Vumerity, and I've been on Vumerity since 2023 and have been stable, thank God.
Thank God. And I want to go back to the one that you had the insurance issue with. I went to a similar situation with Gilenia. I was on Gilenia for 3 years, oral medication. I had the copay assistance. Everything was going good. And then all of a
Mhm.
sudden I started getting bills in the mail for $250 for 3 months. And I'm like, and I call the pharmacy and I'm like, why am I getting billed? When they told me, well, it went from brand name to generic, the copay assistance program stopped. And I'm like, well, who the hell is going to tell me that? Nobody told me that. And
Hello.
I'm sitting here getting racked up copay charges because the copay assistance program ended and doesn't cover brand name. And I'm like, well, who is going to tell me that? I just thought that was so
Truly.
wrong by the pharmacy's part. So I totally understand what you were going through on on the insurance side of your DMTs.
Oh yes, and believe it or not, funnier part. So when I first tried to get Gilenia, again, the insurance denied it. My MS specialist tried to get me into a clinical trial where Gilenia was being compared against the injectables, but there was a 50-50 chance that I would get put into the injectables group. So I told this doctor, I said, I'm telling you right now, I appreciate you for trying, but if I get put in the injectables, I'm out.
I'm out. Yeah.
Period. I'm not doing it anymore. I'm not.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I don't blame you, Millie. And those are the things that we have to deal with. That's part of the mental part of it. And I know you said a little bit earlier about the employment part, and I wanted to talk to you about your job because I think it's fascinating that you did 20 years with the department that you did. Talk a little bit about your job and how your MS affected your ability to work.
So essentially, I was an auditor for the Department of Health and Human Services. Basic requirements to get the job is accounting major, and a GPA 3.0, and U.S. citizen, of course. Anyway, basically, we were responsible for managing fraud, waste, and abuse in all programs funded by the Department of Health and Human Services. Our big hitters, Medicare and Medicaid in particular. So we did a lot of audits on whether these programs operated in compliance with federal regulations. If they didn't, then we had the authority to request repayment back to the federal government for those non-compliant services.
Yeah. I mean, that is just a fascinating, and so you're already working in the system, and you're diagnosed with a disease that could
Mm.
very well you can end up being taken care of by that system, and I think that had to be so valuable to you when it came to the point where you said, you know what, I got to make that decision that I can't do this anymore.
Yeah, for sure. And actually, when going back, sorry to kind of chop it, but when I was probably diagnosed, I went to apply for temporary Medicaid because I had no insurance, and I was denied and said I made $2 too much. So now to be then hired to, fight fraud, waste, and abuse in that very program, to me, that was like a closed circle moment, if that makes sense.
Absolutely, yeah, that had to be, yeah, that you're on one side and now you're on the other side. That had to be huge for you, Millie.
Exactly. But then the part was what I saw in doing that is what really hurt my heart.
Yeah. So talk to me about like some of the things that you had seen, like when you're doing your job as an auditor, just like some of the things that you seen with difficulties that people had that you probably felt that were actually legitimately disabled, but the difficult, it takes 2 years to get that Medicaid or Medicare approved. And why is that
Mhm.
process such a long process?
Mm. It all boiled down to the laws and regulations that govern these programs. And those laws and regulations are written in such a way that it'll knock you out to sleep in 2 minutes.
Right? Yeah. I
Nobody wants to read it, but I really strongly encourage everybody to read it.
I know. Well, and that's part of the problem. When we're diagnosed with MS, part of our functions that get affected by it is the cognitive, and then just to go through all that
True,
paperwork is it.
true,
I mean,
true.
it's a mind fuck just to go through that paperwork. I know it was when I
I
when
agree.
I went through it.
But in my opinion, at my 20 years in, they are counting on that people give up because of the fucking.
That's really sad for you to even say that, working 20 years with the system, and you're sitting there saying that they want you to quit, and that's their goal is to try to make you quit trying.
Yeah, truly, it's crazy, but it's true. It's true. Sometimes the government makes errors too. They could send out a letter saying, "Oh, we've determined you're no longer eligible for SSI," and it's like, "Oh, sorry, we didn't mean that."
Man, I know that we had a conversation before we recorded. I worked in the government and you worked in the government, and we were in agreement that there's a lot of great programs out there that are designed for really good things, and a lot of times they're abused. They're abused either by the people that put them into place, or they're abused by the people. They find loopholes. It's whether it's attorneys that find them or
Correct.
whoever. I mean,
Correct.
everybody finds a loophole, and that's what really screws a lot of programs up. I know it did when I worked for the state, and I know we talked about it with when you were doing your thing with as an auditor.
Hmm. I agree completely. Completely, sir. It's unfortunate, but it's really reality. And I think I mentioned this on another live. What really blew my mind in my 20 years is when I came across regulations about how at least for New York Medicaid, any written material regarding New York Medicaid must be at least no greater than the fourth grade reading level.
Wow, that's crazy, Millie. So let me ask you this, Millie. So I know that just going through that system, that was a stress on me. I was in the state system, and then I had to apply for it after I got enough credits because I didn't even have enough credits in the beginning because I was always paying in the PERS. But I was denied, and I was like sitting here going, I don't understand this. I've had MS for over 25 years. Why am I getting denied? I've already been approved by the state. But I know that a lot of people get frustrated when they get that denial letter. And I want you to tell people, working in that system that that denial letter is not uncommon and how you got to keep on fighting for that approval.
Definitely, Brian. Fighting is a necessity. I don't know any other way to put it. Especially if you know you qualify, you need it, keep fighting. You have to go back to your doctors, get additional documentation. Because I'm one of another auditor's favorite. If it wasn't documented, it did not exist.
Right?
Period.
Right? And they're kind of counting on you to give up, or is what you're telling me, right? I mean, because they give you that denial. Because I know when I went through mine, and I got that denial letter. I'm just sitting here going, I don't understand this. I actually took it to an attorney, and the attorney said, Brian, they're going to deny you. You're going to get denied the first try. He goes, you don't even need my help. Just go ahead and go to your doctor and get more documentation. Have him fight the fight for you because that's all I'm going to do is I'm just going to request more documentation. And I did it on my own. And they ended up approving me. My doctor wrote up a letter talking about my EDS. He said, I was at a 6.6 and I was like legally disabled and could not work. And I sent that letter in with my appeal, and I got a call back a month later and saying, hey, you're approved. The part that I did not understand was they said, okay, you're approved. Here, you're backdated. We're going to give you the monies from your filing date, but you're not going to have your medical coverage for 2 years. And I'm just like sitting here scratching my head going, why? I'm disabled now, not 2 years from now. And she said, well, that's just the way it is. Can you kind of explain that?
Regulations again. I understand. There's always the law that is created, and then the regulations come to implement those. The law basically, I don't know who came up with it, that if you are approved for Social Security, you have to be on record for that for 2 years until you become Medicare eligible in their eyes. They made the playbook.
It just makes no sense to me. And when I asked that question to the person that worked at Social Security, she couldn't answer it either. She's like, I don't know the answer to that. And I just wish somebody could explain that to me. And I understand it's regulations, but that's stuff that needs to change. And I just, in my 28 years of dealing with multiple sclerosis, I was 27 years old when I first got diagnosed, and I was still working, and I started observing and watching how people with disabilities were treated by society, by the government, by everything involved. And fast forward 28 years later, I mean, the system is broke. And I just think it needs fixed, and I don't know how it's going to get fixed, but I mean, we just got to keep on talking about it. We got to explain our situations and the impact of how all these decisions that are made by these politicians, how they directly affect us.
I totally agree, Brian. My 2 cents, I think education is one, knowledge is one. Like I said, regulations that are stating these are the rules. Where did they come from? How did they come to that conclusion? We need to know if we're going to fight. Next, advocacy. Again, we have to share that knowledge with others so that we can hopefully get some change down the road. At
We need
least,
to.
again,
Yeah.
my 2 cents.
Yeah, we need to. Because it's not any better than it was back when I got diagnosed. I thought that people were treated unfairly then, and it hasn't gotten any better in my 28 years. So, and that's kind of why I started this podcast. I mean, it was a way of letting people tell their stories, and I think that's an important piece of our journey is to, we want people to understand. So we got to talk about it. And I think that's a really good part of my mental health is just talking to people and listening to people and understanding. And I think that's an important part of this journey is just making sure that we're taking care of our mental health.
Absolutely. And how beautiful that TikTok is how I met you. And here we are. I love it more.
I know, right? And I think that TikTok community is very important to me. And I know it's an important part of your life. I mean, we met there and we've talked to people from all over the world, and we just kind of try to help people understand this disease. If they're, especially if they're new in this diagnosis, and because I know how scary that is. I was 27, I was
Awesome.
young, and I know we see a lot of people. I mean, we're friends with a beautiful lady down in the southern part of the United States that's young. I mean, she's in her young 20s and she's got a newborn baby. And,
Mm,
and she's struggling, with the system. The system is broke. I mean, she's got letters coming into her saying that they're going to yank her benefits. And she's like, I don't understand why. And, that's the part that I just hate seeing is just the fear in people because the system is not right. It's not set up for us.
truly. But then you've raised a really good point in the sense that we can help support her through, and again, use it to educate others that help. We need help. We can't do this by ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a lot of knowledge in our community too out there. I mean, there's all walks of
Oh,
life.
yes.
I mean, there's people from all over the world. There's people that that are entry level jobs up to people that are executives, that are directors in states of government, and
Truly.
they're all affected by this disease, and everybody has the same mentality that it's not understood. It's not understood by our doctors. It's not understood
Mm,
by our family members. It's not understood by our
mm,
employers. And it's
mm,
very frustrating being that person with the disease, not having that support around you.
truly. And also the stress at makes us worse. So please.
Yeah, and that's another part, like I was talking about the mental part of it. That has been my hardest part along this whole journey is the mental part of it. How do you handle your mental health part of the journey, Millie?
Mm. Great question, Brian. Um, Again, back to the first 4 years of researching what MS was. Once I saw that mental health part of it, I'm going to be honest, I was so scared I avoided it like the plague
Yeah, I understand that.
until I couldn't until I couldn't any longer and had a major depressive episode in 2016.
Yeah, I understand that. I was the exact same way, Millie. I'm 27 and I'm young and I'm a strong guy and
Yeah.
I denied the mental health part of it. I was actually depressed before that. My dad died when I was 15. I never addressed it back then. My mom
Oh,
tried to get me help, but I denied it as a 15-year-old, like most 15-year-olds would. And, and
mm,
that carried on all the way through my diagnosis. 27, I ignored the mental health
of
part of it.
course.
And it wasn't until 2015 when I lost my ability to work with the state of Ohio and I crashed that I started to address it. And I think that was such a huge mistake on my part. And
I agree.
I try to tell people as early as possible. In my opinion, I think at the diagnosis, there should be a mental health professional involved in that diagnosis, just to
True.
kind of like hand them off, like, okay, you're diagnosed with
Yeah.
MS, and now I want you to address the mental health part of it because it's more important than the physical part to me.
That I love that, Brian. I love that. And even that, I would love to see that before I say goodbye.
Yeah, I do. I would too. I talk about it a lot. I talk about it with Jonathan, who's the director of mental health up in Massachusetts, and he agrees with me. I mean, he said that, yeah, I agree, Brian. That it's somewhere where I think we need to get to. We're not there yet, but hopefully
Yes,
people will listen
yes,
to us.
yes. Well, how about we just made a pact right here? We can all put our heads together and get it done.
That's it. That's it. We got to keep on talking about it, and I think there are some systems that actually have that in place because I have talked to people that said that, yeah, they did refer me over right away, but the
Awesome.
99% of the people I talk to, it's not involved. The mental health part is not
Correct.
involved,
We didn't even get an explanation of what MS was.
right? Yeah. I mean, back when I got diagnosed, there was no internet. I couldn't even Google it. I just had to figure it out all on
But
my
thank
own.
God.
Yeah. 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 So talk to me a little bit about your actual family, your physical family, and how important they are to you. Because I know that they play a big role in your fight every day with your disease, Millie.
That is correct. Thank you, Brian. My family is awesome. I think I mentioned to you in another life, both my parents were both born and raised in Trinidad. They've been on Staten Island now for 50 plus years.
That's awesome.
So I'm born, raised, and never left. We own a two-family house. Mom lives downstairs. I'm upstairs. I chose to fight MS in the face every day when I walk up my 16 stairs.
Yeah, amen.
So I have no kids, but I say my parents, my mom, and my bonus dad, because my biological dad passed in 2018. So those are my children. Wow. So I take care of them daily, grocery runs, the pharmacy run, whatever it is. Actually, my bonus dad has the perfect, I never heard this phrase. He calls me yeoman service. Have you ever heard of that term?
I have never heard that. No. What is that?
It, it's a, I'm down, I'm here to do anything type of person.
Oh, wow.
Whatever you need, I got it.
Okay, I get it now. Yo, man, I like that. I love that. I love that, Millie.
And then he says, "Oh, and thank you for your yeoman service." I said, "You're very welcome, sir.
I
Very
love that.
welcome."
I love that. And that is important that you have that support, because there's a lot of people that don't have that. And I know we talk a lot about on with people on TikTok, even though you might not have that support system in place physically,
Mhm.
you can still have that support system with the community on TikTok. And I think that
Absolutely.
and I think that support is important, just with the mental part of the journey.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Positively. So I also drive them around all day, but it's a teamwork because they cook for me every night.
Right? Yeah. You gotta have
It's
your team. You gotta have your team.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. And then I love them more because, again, they're 77. So, they're not, up and partying every damn day. So,
Yeah.
um, it's helpful. Like this Christmas, I appreciated so much that I could just literally stay in my pajamas all day, have breakfast with them, have lunch and dinner, and don't get out of my pajamas.
That's awesome. And I love the fact, when I talk to you in lives, you're just like you take every day as it is. It's just it is what it is. You can't do anything about it. It's not your fault that you have MS or whatever chronic disease you were diagnosed
Absolutely.
with. And give yourself grace and just be a little bit kinder on yourself and just enjoy life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's funny because I'm very known for saying it is what it is. That's me for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
I know. Talk a little bit about the one live that you're a moderator for, and I know I recorded with Q back on my first channel, but I just want to give him a shout out because I go into that live. Usually, I'll pop in, I'll stay in the basement, but I'll say hi. But I just love everything it's about, and we'll talk a little bit about the people that we've met along the way. They're not in our states. I mean, you're in New York, Q's down in Texas, but just talk a little bit about Q's live a little bit.
Absolutely appreciate that. Yes, definitely shout out to Living with MS. TikTok lives Monday through Friday, 8:30 Eastern. I'm specifying Eastern because that's where I am. Q is Central, so it's 7:30 Central, Monday through Friday. Um, Q is an awesome, awesome warrior. Like father, friend, little brother, all the above. And he's created such a wonderful platform to where within 5 minutes of opening, we are book solid. Nobody can find room.
Yeah, I know.
And it warms my heart every time. I often, as the moderator, put myself down first to let others come, and then the other moderators follow. We try our best, but the amount of warriors that have come our way, and we especially love, like just like you said, the newbies. The I was just diagnosed last week. I'm so lost. And to just let them know that it's okay. It is okay. And we're here when you're ready,
Yeah.
um, and to share with them what we have learned so far. And again, so different situations in everyone, from age of diagnosis, from young to old to in between, to kids, no kids, the gamut. We all have it. And again, we lean on each other. and it's become a really awesome group. We're actually thinking about now figuring out how, so everybody's going to do the MS walks in their respective areas, but we want to tie in the living with MS to let them know we're part of the family too.
That is just so awesome. And I know that I jump in there when I can, but but you guys are on late. I'm usually like getting ready to go to bed, because our Q's an hour difference in time zones and all that. But
Hmm.
I love everybody in that community. The TikTok community is very important to me. I'm 55 years old. If you would have told me that 5 years ago, I'd have told you were crazy. Because
I agree.
I wasn't a social media person, but I mean,
I agree.
it's a part of my life now. And it's because I'm talking to people that get it, they get it because they got
Truly,
it. And
truly.
it's a very valuable tool that I use for my mental health.
Yes. It's like a virtual hug, honestly, to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Seeing you guys being able to talk to anybody, it's like a virtual hug.
Yeah. Absolutely. Millie, I absolutely love talking to you. What is your motivation to keep on fighting this fight every day? What motivates me is like just talking to people like you. I love getting up every day knowing that I'm gonna meet people on TikTok, and I find people that want to record. And how do you motivate yourself? We're not working. We're staring at four walls a lot of times. How do you keep motivated, stay positive as you are, because you're always positive, to keep on fighting this disease every day like you do?
Very strong support system. Yes, I talked about my family, but I didn't even put a pinky toe in the water of my friends. Oh my God. I'm so grateful, so blessed. Beyond measure. They keep me positive. They hold me accountable. They can tell without even talking to me or even based on how I'm responding in text messages. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But I love them and I would not have been able to make it without them. And also, again, my philosophy in life has always been as long as I know I did my best, I'm good.
I
That's
love
all I
that.
can do.
I love that. I love that, Millie. At the end of the
Yes,
day, when my life is gone, I just want to go out knowing that I never quit, because
exactly.
I've never been a quitter in my whole life. I mean, things have gone wrong for me in my life. My dad died when I was 15. I fractured two vertebrae in my back playing at Michigan. I got diagnosed with MS, but I never quit. And life sucked. Life sucked at some point in time, and you get kicked and you're down and you fall and you break this, and you got to get back up, dust yourself off, and keep on going. And that's the way you are.
Absolutely.
And I absolutely love talking to you.
Same, Brian. Same on all accounts.
If you want to follow Millie, I will put her description into the podcast description. Millie, if you want to give anybody any kind of words of advice, they're new in this diagnosis, or they're trying to fight through the system and trying to get approved by Medicare and Medicaid, what would your message be to them, just to keep on fighting, and the sun's going to come up in the morning, and keep on going?
Number one, knowledge is power. Educate yourself. What is MS? What's the playing field like? Wherever it may lead you, whether it's Medicare, Medicaid, private insured, whatever it is, know the playing field that you're dealing with. To advocate for yourself in terms of doctors, in terms of anyone, everyone. And again, get your documentation, T's crossed and I's dotted, and ensure that those doctors are willing to work with whomever to share said information to get the benefits that you need. Three, never give up. Ever, 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 ever. And if you do, then find any one of us on TikTok and we'll help from there.
I love that. You know what I love the most about that is knowledge is power, man. I say that all the time. Knowledge is power, ignorance is a choice, and you have a choice to be ignorant. And I want people to, just learn about this disease, whether you have it or you don't, listen to us talk,
Mhm.
and, just to understand what it's like, how it affects everything in our lives, whether, it's affecting our employment or our mental health or our physical abilities. I mean, just understand it. I don't want pity from anybody. I just want people to understand it.
Well put, Brian. Couldn't have said it better myself.
I appreciate you, Millie. I will have you on anytime you want to record with me. I love talking to you. I enjoy seeing you just about every day in our lives, and I love listening to you talk. You have a lot of knowledge being, from your experience with MS and with your job. And I just love talking to you. I love everything that you're about, Millie.
Oh, I love it more. Again, it's like a virtual hug, and I thank you for it.
All right. Thank you, Millie. All right. If you want to follow me, I am MS Michigan Man 64 on TikTok, and you can find me on Instagram, MS Michigan Man 64, and I'm on Facebook, Brian Wallace out of Brunswick, Ohio. Hit the subscribe button and share it out. We want our stories to be understood. The best way to understand it is to listen to us talk. Till the next episode, this is the MS Michigan Man 64. I am out.